Welcome to Time for the Living podcast with Mirka. I'm so glad you're here. This is a place for honest conversations with creative people from all walks of life. Together, we'll explore the stories behind their work, the successes, the struggles, and the moments that shaped who they are. Because creativity isn't just about what we make. It's about how we live, how we grow, and how we keep moving forward. Whether you're a creative, an entrepreneur, or simply looking for inspiration, I hope that these conversations will encourage you to live with purpose, resilience, and hope. I'm your host, Mirka, and welcome to the Time for the Living podcast. I remember when we met and we were there on the deck.
Yep.
And we were listening to some music and Bruce and Janie introduced us.
Yes.
And you made a statement. You said, if I produce an album, I think about every note, every line. And I remember when you told me that. I've never heard that before. But I heard your heart. And you really did that.
Oh, thank you.
So first
that
of
is
all,
important to me.
yes, thank you for doing that for my album. But tell me, where does that come from?
From being a writer. I always feel like when I hire players, the guys that bring the most to the party don't just come in and play a chart. They're actually writing to the song. They're actually contributing to the song. And I always try to do that with anything I'm doing. I like to bring a little bit of what I am into somebody else's music. And that takes time. And sometimes it's like immediate and it's like easy. And the other times it's hard. It depends, and it depends on the song, depends on the artist, depends on all that. But I think that's the thing is I want to contribute, not just play a song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're amazing in that. You're really a very gifted musician, artist, songwriter, not just a producer. But when you touched the piano or when you started to sing, can you remember where it was and how young you were?
I was very young. My mom took me to piano lessons when I was, I think, 5 or 6. And I took lessons for like 5 years, I think, something like that. And I didn't want to do it. I didn't hate it, but I didn't enjoy it. And but my teacher was really sweet. She was a little local lady by the name of Frida Baker. And Miss Frida, man.
Miss Baker.
Miss Baker. She was really sweet. And her and her husband, Mom would take me to her house once a week for piano lessons. And my brother, too. My brother only took it for a short time, and then he was allowed to quit because he wanted to play guitar. And I didn't. I just let him kind of do his thing, and I stuck with the piano. But my teacher would always be like, she would throw these like ragtime things in front of me. And I would read them, and I would play them, and I was really kind of bored by them. And so I would start creating my own introduction and outro to these songs.
Wow.
And she didn't discourage that. She encouraged that. And that was cool to me because then it kind of she allowed me to be creative with other works and contribute my own thing to them. So that really set me up for wanting to do that in later life. But I was about 5.
Wow.
And I quit after about 5 years, 6 years. My mom finally let me quit so I could play baseball, what I really wanted to do. And I did that for several years, and I didn't play much. My mom had a very rare 5-octave acoustic piano that sat in our dining room. This little bitty acoustic piano. And it was really rare, but people would come over. I would play something once in a while, and my mom, she played too, so she would play on it. But there was a really young guy, traveling evangelist, came to our church, and he stayed with us. The guy was named Mike Starrick, and Mike, he sat down at that little piano and he started playing Floyd Kramer's The Last Date. I don't know if you've ever heard that.
No,
It's an
no.
old song. And it's got this cool thing that Floyd did. And I was kind of like, wow, that was cool. So I sat down and immediately started playing it. And he was like, whoa, like, seriously, you just saw that and you played it? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, well, you want to know the whole song? I'm like, sure. So he showed me the whole song. And that sparked me to want to play again. And I don't remember how old I was. I probably wasn't even a teenager, or maybe just a teenager. And I started playing the piano again all the time. And I played that song a million times. And that's when I started to want to play again. And me and my brother sang in church our whole lives. And he always told me, but let me preface that. There was a traveling band that came into our church and played. And there was this guy playing an electric piano. I'd never seen one before. He had an old Wurlitzer 200, which was phenomenal. And this guy's playing this electric piano, and I'm like, what is that? I want one of those, you know? So my brother made me the promise. He said, you know what? If you learn to play piano and sing at the same time, I'll buy you one.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, no, you won't. You know, it's like, you know, you're pulling my leg, man.
That's Danny, right?
Yeah, my brother Danny. So I turned 16. I had learned how to play and sing. He gave me he threw down the gauntlet, and I was like, okay, I'll do that. So I did. And I kept like telling him, hey man, where's that electric piano? Where's that electric piano? So for my 16th birthday, man, my grandpa and my brother went together and bought me a Fender Rhodes suitcase electric piano where it's set on top of its own big speaker. That was my first keyboard, and that changed my life, literally.
Why did it change your life? Because of the feeling and the emotions that it brought out
Just
of you?
knowing that that's what I wanted to do.
Wow.
Yeah. So I played that Rhodes till it was dead. I beat it to pieces, man. But it was such a great keyboard.
And what happened? And tell me a little bit after that. How did your journey? How did the road lead you to moving to Nashville, starting to produce and play?
Yeah. Well, I played and sang with my brother in our family band. And while I was in college, actually, I would drive back home, which was probably close to a 2-hour drive, 1 hour and a half. And I would drive home, jump on our Greyhound bus that my dad had, and we would all go somewhere and put on a concert, and then come back home, and I would go back to school. And that was like every weekend. And I did that we did that for years, but in my senior year, that's when my brother got hurt. Mm-hmm. And so our band came to a screeching halt at that point. And I had sold some things I had. I actually had a 66 Mustang, which was really cool. I'd restored it and fixed it all up, and it was about 90% finished. And I decided I'm going to sell the Mustang and buy a keyboard. So I did.
That's really loving music.
Exactly. I was so intrigued with wanting to get into the whole programming and all that. And this keyboard had all that built in it. And so I bought the keyboard and started learning how to program with the drum machine and other things. And I knew how to do that. But then my brother got hurt and we stopped. And I kind of... there were some opportunities to play like in like some local club bands, things like that. Actually, my good friend that you know, Mark Hill,
yes,
he pulled me into a club band he was playing in out of Paducah, Kentucky.
Wow. And
I played in that band for several months, and me and Mark played in that band. And then my brother was still recovering. He recovered for many years and not quite fully from a brain injury.
That, accident, right?
Yeah. At a rock quarry.
Yes.
And got a brain injury. And but anyway, he he was still recovering. I was out there trying to find my musical footage, and I found that club band. Played in that for a while with Mark. Well, Mark and his brother were very instrumental to me when my brother got hurt. They came to Evansville, Indiana. They would drive there and visit me and take me to music stores and stuff just to kind of get my head out of being in the hospital with my brother. And Mark's brother had leukemia and went into remission for years. But while I was playing in that band with Mark, his brother fell really ill. So me and him drove to St. Louis, and his brother passed away. So me and Mark have a real tight bond because we're kind of brothers, literally.
Wow.
So
I did not even know that, Dennis.
Yeah. And and then Mark, there was an opportunity in a Christian band called the Imperials, and they were very big at the time. They were one of the first kind of contemporary Christian bands. So, and we knew some guys in there, and a good friend of mine and Mark's named Richie Biggs. Richie was, he was running, I think, monitors for the sound and driving the bus for the Imperials. Well, the bass player was leaving, so Mark got a chance to audition, and he got the gig. So all this happened right around the same time of us quitting the band, Mark getting that gig, and his brother passing away. So it was kind of tumultuous there for a while. But he took that and did that for, I don't know how long, maybe a year. And then the keyboard player was leaving. So then Mark and Richie both said, Dennis, we got you this gig if you want it. And I'm like, I'm in. So that is actually, that it wasn't what moved me to Nashville. I did that and commuted from Illinois to Nashville for 2 years. And that ended up fizzling out. And they kind of shut the Imperials down for a while. I guess finances were pretty bad.
As it goes.
As it goes. So I was then kind of left with an opportunity, like, what am I going to do? And I did have an opportunity. Mark Hill had talked to a guy that was at Reunion Records, which was one of the better Christian labels at the time. And he met with the guy who was managing the publishing company and told him about me. So he set up a meeting for me to meet with this guy. His name was Richard Hayden. And I sat down with him, and I played him a bunch of my songs I had written and programmed and demoed and everything. And he was like, you're doing all these demos yourself? I'm like, yeah. And he's like, he liked that. So he ended up signing me to a 3-year publishing deal.
Oh,
and
wow.
That's what moved me here. After I signed that deal, I moved here.
So in those years, when we talk about those years, we know it's before, I would say, 10, 15 years when music, the industry really changed.
Oh, yeah.
So just for somebody that's listening, how could you live off a publishing deal? Was it really something where you could just be at home and make a living out of it, or did you still have to go and do gigs?
No, the way I looked at it, it was enough money to pay my rent, and because they gave me an advance.
Okay.
So that money that they were paying me for the next 3 years was enough to pay my rent for that time, and I figured, hey, I'll scrub up enough work to pay the rest of the bills, Yeah. And I did. It was really, Reunion was a just awesome experience for me. It was wonderful.
Why? Why was it?
My publisher was less of a publisher to me and more like a manager.
Okay.
And he was promoting me and plugging me as a programmer to all these producers that were coming in listening to songs. And he would be like, Richard would be like, he would play him a song of mine, and he would be like, hey, by the way, the guy that wrote that played all the music on that and sang it. And it was like, I thought when I moved to Nashville, my hope was I would start getting cuts as a writer, And eventually, maybe I would work my way into actually working on records and playing on them. And it was the opposite. I ended up getting jobs working on records really quickly. I was working on demos like crazy, like songwriting demos for other companies and other writers. I got hooked up with a bunch of writers and wrote with them all the time. We started getting things out there, and it was really neat. I would be called to work on a record, and the producer was like, "Hey, don't you write too?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Well, have you got anything like this?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And I would play him something, and then boom, I started getting cuts.
That's amazing.
So it was really cool. It was kind of the opposite way I thought it would happen, but it still happened.
Wow, that is really I did not know that about you. It's so fascinating for me to now hear more of your journey.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. Okay, and so how did you get to Bob Carlyle?
Yeah, great.
Because that was a big opportunity for you. Right?
Oh yes, that was huge. He was just another project for me. At that time, I was really busy working on Christian records. I was probably juggling 3-4 records at the same time.
And let me just ask you there, where would you do the productions? In your home?
In my house, yeah.
Wow,
I would do all my programming and everything there. And usually I would have to cartage, a whole bunch of my gear down to a studio, and then we'd track it all out. And it was cool, though. I enjoyed it. At one point, I had so much equipment. It was ridiculous. I had all these big, huge synth modules and racks and computers and everything. And I took up an entire cartage truck myself, just a whole truck, just to haul all my stuff. It was crazy. And a lot of that stuff is just show, too.
Yes.
It's like, check it out. Look at my big racks.
This guy must be really good.
Yeah, that's right. He's got all the stuff, man. Look at all the lights. It was like, so yeah, I did that. I was juggling a bunch of records, and right after the Imperials kind of fell through, and I moved here, Mark was also playing in a band called Allies, and they were a Christian band. Well, guess who the lead singer was? Bob Carlyle.
Oh, wow.
So Mark was playing bass with them, and they needed a keyboard guy. Mark got me every gig I ever got.
Thank you, Mark.
Exactly. He did, man.
He's a great friend to you.
He's always been a great friend. And he plugged me into Allies, and I was playing with him, got to know Bob. And, then right after that, I did like the last probably 12 shows with Allies before they split. The reason they split is Bob was going off to do a solo deal as Bob Carlyle, no longer Allies. And he did, I want to say 2 records or maybe 3 records with Sparrow, and then he got dropped because he didn't sell that good. Everybody was blown away by Bob's talent. I mean, his voice is crazy.
It is. It's an amazing voice.
I don't know, you ever hear the old Motley Crue song called "Girls, Girls, Girls"? That's all Bob.
No way.
If you listen to that, all those background vocals and all that gang big male vocal, that's Bob. He sang on that.
Wow.
But he did tons of stuff like that in L.A. He was a very big session singer out there.
It's quite a jump from a Christian boy to Motley Crue.
Yeah, exactly.
Vocals.
I don't think the Christian crowd quite knew some of the stuff he had done. But anyway, yeah. So I got to know Bob through Allies, and then he got dropped by his label. Well, then he got picked up by Diadem Records, which was a small label comparatively. And this guy named George King met with Bob and told him, he said, "You know what?" He said, "I just love you." He said, "I don't have a ton of money." He said, "But I want to give you enough to make the record you need to make." But he said, "I can't give you a ton of money for a budget, but I'll pay you in points. Like, I'll give you lots of producer points. I'll give you writer points. I want you to produce and write the whole thing." So Bob was talking to a producer friend of mine, and he said, "Man, I need to get a programmer guy." And he said, "Man, I've been working a lot with Dennis Patton." And Bob was like, "I know Dennis Patton." So he called me up, and I did that record with him. And I remember it was kind of funny because he gave me a cassette tape of Butterfly Kisses. And it was literally him like sitting in his living room with an acoustic guitar and singing into a boombox. And he would mess up and stop, and he would start again and he'd stop. And then he got to the end of it. I remember he even recorded a voice note at the end. He's like, man, I don't know. He's like, this could be the cheesiest thing I've ever written in my life. He's like, I don't know. He said, just see what you can do with it.
That's incredible. It's not the cheesiest. It was the biggest thing he's ever written.
Oh my gosh, it was massive. You know, none of us ever would have dreamed of that.
Well, that's something, it was so hilarious when you told me. Tell me again when they came and said to you it's on the charts. Tell that story again.
Oh, yeah. Bob. So I did the record with him and we got done. And I think they did a Christian single, which actually did really well in the Christian charts. I saw Bob downtown playing. There used to be a Gibson Cafe. It was a coffee shop right on Broadway. And I heard Bob was down there playing like a singer, songwriter thing. And I thought, I'm going to go check him out, you know. So I went, and it was really great. It's one of the songwriter in the round kind of things where guys would play a song and a song and a song, and Bob was just one of the guys. And I told him, you know, after the show, I said, man, next time you do that, why don't you tell me? I said, I'll throw a Wurlitzer in my trunk and come sit in and just jam with you. And he was like, yeah, that would be fun. I didn't think anything else about it. You know, time went on. Nothing, you know, I didn't know anything was going on. Well, I got a call from Bob, and he's like, hey, man, what are you doing? I said, just working on stuff. He said, have you heard about Butterfly Kisses? And I'm like, no. And he's like, well, it's like number 10 with a bullet. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. I said, like, on the Christian charts? He said, no, on the charts. And I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, AC, top 40. And I'm like, what? He said, yeah. He said, some crazy DJ started spinning this song, and it got such on a hard metal, he said, on a metal radio station. And it got such a reaction. He did it again, and he got the same kind of reaction. And this DJ was like, you got to check this out. So he called his DJ buddies and said, hey, try spinning this song and see if you get a reaction on the telephone. And every one of them, they'd spin it, and they would get these calls like, what the heck was that? You know, everybody was curious about what it was, who it was. Well, this thing started charting on the radio because of all this action it was getting. Totally like an underground thing. No record company was behind it, nothing. And it was just an organic thing that happened. And, you know, it was a God thing.
Yeah.
And it was meant to be.
Yeah.
And so he told me this whole story, and I'm just like going, wow, you got to be kidding me, man. That's awesome. And then he dropped the bomb on me. He was like, well, you said, you know, something about coming and jamming with me, right? I was like, yeah. He said, well, I need you to put together a band because we're going to play on Jay Leno.
Look at that. That's amazing. Did you get it there?
I did, yes. They gave them this. So they gave these to us. It was real. It was unreal, man. It felt totally surreal. Yeah, I hired Steve Brewster and Mark Hill, Scott Sheriff, and we went and did a rehearsal thing here in town, just us on the song, and then we met Bob at the Tonight Show and rehearsed it there with him, and then did it that night. It was just crazy. Wow. And now I remember Bob. He was like, "Hey man, we're all in L.A." He's like, I've got to play the Oprah show tomorrow. And I'm like, whoa. He's like, I want you to come with me. And I'm like, sure. So, man, me and him jumped on a plane. The other guys came back to Nashville, and me and him went to Chicago and played on Oprah.
That's incredible, Dennis. Wow.
We ended up doing like, oh, my word, probably 7, 8, 9 different TV shows. Like Good Morning America, Regis. We did them all. It was really very surreal feeling. And it really gave me an inside look at, just what happens to you mentally during some kind of thing like that. Like, it's such a shock. And I was really blown away and impressed by Bob. Number one, Bob wasn't some young kid. He had been around the block several times. And his approach to all of that was just so mature and so smart. He was going around the clock. The guy wasn't even sleeping. Like, he was doing interviews in the middle of the night with other countries. And I mean, it was crazy. Eventually the song, went to number one and stayed there. Like, it was a huge hit.
It was.
And I told him, we were in a limo going somewhere to something else. And I was like, Bob, man, are you okay? I said, man, they're making you burn the candle at both ends right now, man. Are you all right? He's like, dude, I've never been better. He's like, I've waited my whole life for this. And he said, I'm just going to live this as much as I can. And it was just really cool, man. And then he was just a total professional on everything. The only thing he kind of lost it over was we were at Oprah, and Charlton Heston was there. I don't know if you know who that is. Big actor. Been in tons of movies.
Okay.
He played Moses in the Ten Commandments in the old version.
Okay, yes.
So Bob was running around the studio going, "Where's your God now, Moses?" He was cracking me up, man. And if you ever know Bob Carlisle, he could have totally made it as a stand-up comedian.
Wow.
Oh my gosh, he's so funny, man. He kept us all in stitches all the time.
Do you know where he is these days?
Yeah, he's living in Las Vegas. Yeah, been living there. Actually, he started his own record company there, and I went to work for it for a while. But he based out of Las Vegas, and then moved to California, like in Northern California somewhere for quite a few years. Him and Jackie, his wife, and then I don't know, several years ago they moved back to Vegas again.
Wow.
I'm like, why Vegas? I don't like Vegas. And he's like, man, I love the desert. He said, I grew up in the desert and I just love it. And I didn't like it. Every time you touch a doorknob, you got shocked. It's so dry. It's like sparks.
So what was it like for you to have those experiences? It can be, like you said, it happened. It's like a dream.
Yeah.
And it happens fast.
Yeah.
But there's also a lot of fluff to it, right?
Oh, yeah. Gosh. I can totally see how people become immediately addicted to that kind of attention and lifestyle. It's so easy to see. Like, it was crazy. Like, I would literally get FedEx tickets, and it would be like first class airline tickets to some, Canada or something. And I would get there, and there would be a guy with my name out there, and I would go climb in a limo and go to the nicest hotel in the city and have a whole huge suite. It's like, this is crazy. I'm a keyboard player. It's like, I'm getting treated like this. I can only imagine how the actual artists and stars are being treated, It was totally the red carpet everywhere you went, And I think it's so easy to be addicted and fooled to thinking that, I finally made it, so it's going to be this way forever. And it never is. Like, very few people can hit that level of success and then maintain it year after year after year. It's just hitting it alone is such a small percentage. You're talking about 1% of 1% of 1% or something. And it's like, then the people like Sting or somebody who have managed to stay relevant for decades, that's just, literally that's like a handful of people.
Yes, it is.
So, but I can see how it would be so easy to be fooled to thinking that, well, this is how it always is now. This is how it's always going to be. Bob never did that. That was where I felt like he was really mature. He's like, I'm going to live this moment, and when this moment passes, I'm going to be glad I lived it.
Yes.
It's like, way to go, man. And it was that way. He was kind of a one-hit wonder.
Yeah.
And the record companies had us try to recreate Butterfly Kisses, on the next album. And boy, that was a bummer. I actually wrote 1/3 of one song that was on Butterfly Kisses, and that recouped 3 years of advances and more.
Wow.
Like 1/3 of one song on that record, which sold like 3 million copies. That was a massive publishing payday, man. That was a big one. The next record I did with Bob, I had 2.5 full songs of songs I had written with him, and that record flopped. Man, I just knew that was going to be the house, man.
Yes, exactly. You could line those dreams up.
Been so many times like that in my career, man. It's like, here comes the house, and there it went.
And especially these days.
Oh, my word.
I was talking to Bruce the other day, and I had him on, and we were talking
There's a guy who got the house.
Yes, he did. I was telling him when he wrote that hit with Madonna. I mean, he could have bought a house with the one first royalty check.
That was the heyday. That was so cool. What was awesome about that time is that's when CDs came out, so the quality had stepped up way from tape and all that junk. Like, finally you had digital quality music, and it was lovely because if you just managed to get a cut on that CD and somebody had a hit on that CD, just like Bob had one song hit, sold 3 million CDs from it. It's like you still made, the same amount of royalties that song made.
Yes.
As far as mechanical sales.
Yes.
And then iTunes. It was like,
let's call it iTunes.
No, exactly.
It killed us all.
Man, then you could just buy the one song.
Yes.
And then the rest of the songs never got touched.
Yes.
And that was a huge change. And then, of course, it's continued to devolve, after that. Now it's like everybody wants to stream music for nothing.
I know.
So it's like...
Yeah. Let me say this. Yes, those years, we don't look back and think like, oh, those were the days. No, that was what was given in that time for people in the earth. Today we hear and everything looks different. But also, if you look back at those times, the waste and the excessiveness of everything.
So true.
And it's like that with many successful young artists, sports people.
Right.
It's so much in such a short period of time that most of it is anyway lost along the through the journey of their lives. And the thing that most of them always lack is relational. You can see the brokenness of those marriages or distrust. Right. And people just still worship that person for this talent. But I wonder sometimes the sadness and the loneliness that many of those super famous and successful people have experienced. And imagine this, not like Bob, who, like you said, he was more mature and he knew, I'm just gonna enjoy it.
This is my 5 minutes of fame,
But with every person that's had a measure of success, I think that thing that starts to eat at you immediately is that second. Will I do it again?
Yeah.
What's going to happen?
Right.
And then you kind of start to chase illusion.
Yeah, and record companies didn't help with that either.
No.
Because they just wanted to make more money.
Yes.
They don't care really about artists.
Never.
Never. They love artists. Bob used to say record companies, they love you, man. They love you until they don't.
And that happens very quickly.
It does.
Very quickly.
Just like that.
Yeah, no, it's we all kind of contemplating the where music is going.
Right.
And you and I are sitting, we just did an album and it's beautiful, and now we have to use social media to start connecting to fans, how much followers you have and all those kind of things, but even that, my heart is kind of broken on the one side for true artists.
Yeah.
Because they want you to produce they want artists to create stuff that's unique and that uplift people and that can make them feel better. But then nobody wants to look after the artists.
Correct.
And nobody can do it these days. You really
Right.
have to have another job or
Right.
or those kind of things. And anyway, so
It's the same for musicians
Yes.
today. I mean, I have other jobs. Almost all the musicians I know have other jobs. You have to.
Yes.
To make ends meet, you know.
What do
Gosh,
you
one of the most
think?
successful drummers in Nashville that I've ever known made the comment, "Oh yeah, that's just drummer money." It's like they can't even. This guy who is like played on everything and everyone you can imagine. He just looks at it as drummer money.
Wow. What
That's
would you
rough.
say if you could have the magic pill? If you could, if you could have a solution of what would you think would balance things out, or what do you think needs to happen
Man,
for music and artists and musicians?
well, I don't know. I mean, I would love to think that there could be some sort of a technical breakthrough that could work in musicians and artists' favor instead of always against them. You know, all the technology that seems to happen now is all taking. It's always taking away from the artist, always taking away from them. And they've pretty much taken everything they can take anymore.
Yes.
It would be something if some technical breakthrough would happen that would allow like artists and writers and composers that their works could be somehow digitally tracked and then be compensated for it in a royalty basis instead of it just being the Wild West out there. You know, now you've got AI coming in that can replicate people to a T. I mean, you could have AI Merca now,
Yeah.
and it'll sound exactly like you. Your songs sound similar to what you would write. It's like everything is still taking away from the artist.
Yeah, that's
it's like
true.
we want to take away your ability to earn money from your creative works. Well, they've done that.
Yeah.
Now are they going to actually take away the ability for artists to just be unique and be themselves?
Yes.
Gosh, I don't know.
Yeah.
I would love for some technology to be developed and like accepted that would allow like these people to be, and these even AI to be tracked digitally. And when somebody is being copyright infringed, you could collect on that.
That's very smart.
But I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, the problem with that is you're fighting tech. And tech, it kind of rules the world at this point. You know that. Like, all the big tech companies have so much power. And we're not just talking money, but political power and everything else, I feel like. And so it feels a little bit like Luke Skywalker going against the whole empire.
Yes,
you know?
I was going to say David and Goliath. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. David
Yeah.
and Goliath. It's like, oh, the Lord would have to guide the rock.
Yes.
But
But on the other hand, I wonder if at some point maybe people will start to long for that real
yeah,
artistry, that
and
real
that
connection.
could happen.
Yeah.
I do think that could happen, Merca, because I think there's a generation coming up that doesn't like fake. I think that there's some kids coming up right now that are tired of. They're already tired of the AI everything. They're already longing for something that's real and human.
Yes.
And I think there will always be a little bit of that underground thing going on that could really help. But it would be lovely if somehow like it came out from under the ground and became something of a statue that
A little seed that comes up and we start to see the the tree. Yes.
so there I mean it is a ride right now, and we
Yeah.
just kind of have to see what's going to happen with things for artists and musicians and all of us. I've dedicated my whole adult life to doing this stuff,
Yes.
and worked very hard to to develop my skills to be able to do that.
Yes.
And it's always you can it's easy you can get into a victim mentality if you're not careful.
Yes.
You know, everything's against me and everybody's trying to get me. It's like, no, it's not about that. It is going to be about, like, what's the word I'm looking, pivoting. We're you know, I think for the last several years I've been forced to pivot on several things.
Yeah.
And we just have to pivot. We have to look for the side opportunity, like you're saying, with social media, even like collaborations with something completely different than music, that you can attach value to the music value to that product or what. Like there's a lot of things that are going on and things that can really help. And I'm just hoping, man, some of that stuff can start getting more of a foothold.
Yes, I'm thinking, I wonder if everything that's happening might be good in the sense that it's gonna bring us back to being really authentically you in that way. And what do you have to give to somebody else? Do you actually have something to give? Not just a cool song or a nice little dance move and a grunt and a sound or what's popular. There's place for that, but I'm thinking maybe it's because we artists, we always want to bring people to a different perspective through art.
Right.
I think that's why we create.
Absolutely.
And so I'm hoping that maybe the true artist will be, first of all, like you said, that we don't become victims. We're not victims.
Right.
We are creators.
Right.
And we should be encouraging to one another to say, go back to who you really are. Stop trying to be a flash in the pan or try to be what everybody else is doing. That's not what an artist should be unique.
Right.
And there should be a vulnerability in that. So I think even in this dark times, I think there might be these little things that, like you said, might start to pop up. And it's not necessarily always about the numbers.
Right.
But there is people in the world today that need what we've got to give.
I agree completely. You know, also, one of my old pastors preached one time about the creative element of God and how that element is passed on to certain people here. And those people tend to have this creative ability, you know, and he also said that he read something, and this is just all scientific conjecture, but it was like that the universe was like continually expanding, that there were new planets and new things forming all the time. And he said, you know, God is a creator, and that's him constantly creating. Like he can't stop creating. I'm like, wow. And I've seen that in people, where people are they have that creative spirit, and maybe music has been one of their avenues, and then maybe that wanes or changes, and then they end up doing something else. I'm going to mention one of the really prolific, successful songwriters in Nashville. His name's Wayne Kirkpatrick. I don't know if you've ever heard of Wayne. He produced and wrote a lot of Christian artists like Susan Ashton. He wrote a little song with Gordon Kennedy and Tommy Sims called "Change the World." You heard that, right? Eric Clapton.
Yeah. Wow.
So that was like the number one song. Like they won a Grammy,
song.
a number one song.
Wow.
But Wayne is one of the best lyricists you'll ever hear in your life. Like he comes up with the most unique ways of saying things that just grab you. It's like you almost have to listen and like study what he just said, and it's like, holy moly. Well, Me and Jessica were at the Loveless Cafe, and we were waiting to get a table and sit down. And they've got little shops around there all the time, and we were messing around in this little gift shop, just looking around, blowing time. And I looked up and saw this really strange looking, unique clock for sale. And I was like, wow, that's really different. I walked up and looked at it, and I was like, man, I would have never thought to put that there and put these things as part of the hands. And I was just like, golly, that's creative. And I looked down in the corner and it said Kirkpatrick. And I'm like, wait a minute. So I went up to the owner and I was like, can you tell me who made that clock? She said, yeah, Wayne Kirkpatrick.
Wow.
And it dawned on me. It was like, he can't stop creating. Like, he is one of the most creative guys I've ever seen in my life. And he's building clocks in his spare time. Because if he's not doing music, he's still creating. And I think that's who we have to be as artists. Is when God puts that creative spirit in you, you got to create. You got to create something. Like, you know you're missing the mark if you're not.
Yes.
And that may not always be playing a keyboard or writing a song or playing a guitar or anything musically. It could be making a new unique table or,
yes,
designing a new cup.
Yes.
Who knows what it could
Yes.
be, but you are constantly creating.
Yes.
And I think that's just the image of God inside of us, that we have to do that.
That's very true.
I think as far as the times go and things being difficult and or different, they are difficult. They're difficult and different for musicians and artists right now. But I think our job is to just create.
Yes.
And then God will make a way for that to be meaningful.
Yes, absolutely. And that is something that I had to learn when I had to walk away from music 14 years ago, because my
Right.
identity was wrapped up in, I have to sing, I have to be on stage, and everything that entails.
Right.
And one of the things I realized was in those years where I didn't do that, it's exactly what you were saying. I realized, wow, I can actually decorate a house. Never thought I would decorate this house,
Which looks fantastic.
Oh,
by
well,
the way.
thank you. Oh, the set,
This is so cool.
Thank you. But those things, every day, or even to go and be in the garden
Yeah.
and plant something, or whatever that means.
Right.
Spend time with children and play a game with them. We started to create games when we would hang out with kids. Just
Nice.
because, like you said, if you're creative, it's going to flow into everything
It
that you
has
do.
to, yeah.
Whether it is making food a different way, or enjoying different kinds of wine, for instance.
Right.
Like, that is art form.
Yeah, absolutely.
You as an artist, you can come and you're like, oh wow. Anyway, I think it's important to enjoy life and to flow in the seasons where you are.
Right.
Not to be too far ahead, not to be looking back over your shoulder.
True.
Learn.
Yes.
And this is what we've been talking about now. If we talk about how it used to be, we don't know where it's going, but we are here.
Right.
We are the people, two people creating, artists. We are still doing it.
Right.
And so it is actually, in a way, there should be some excitement in us.
Yeah, I think if you limit your thinking on that too, like, well, I could easily say, I've spent my whole adult life learning how to do this one thing well. And if I can't do the one thing, then I just won't do anything. And then you live a life where you feel trapped.
Yes.
Or you feel lifeless. And that's just not what life is supposed to be. You're supposed to just, if you're creative, go create something.
Yes. Express yourself
Exactly.
in whichever format is for you there to do today.
Try new things.
Yes, like Jessica, your wife, who can bake all these sourdough breads.
She can do anything she sets her
She's
head
so
to.
creative. Exactly. I will get her on. But yeah, I mean, even starting this podcast, you have, I think there's stuff in us, like you said, that God put in us, in our destiny. But what we also sometimes tend to do, or I used to do that, I would be like, one day.
Right.
Well, no, I can't do it now because who am I? I've never done this. Let the professionals do the interviews.
Right.
Stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it is really those small steps. It is those daily moments of just being who we were made to be.
Yeah.
And then some days it's on a stage. Other times it's just having a conversation. But I think artists, we carry light and we carry hope and we carry encouragement. And whatever way that is applied,
Right.
just do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Dennis, can I ask you, you've been through some hard things in life.
Yeah.
Difficult things, emotional things. And I ask you that question because I believe an artist has to experience some difficult times. It really shapes us. It gives us depth. And it's not always easy when we walk through things. But, both you and I, we're not spring chickens anymore. I think we both just turned 30 the other day, right?
Yeah, something like that.
Anyway, but there is something to be said about when you go through difficult things and how that shapes you and how it's then expressed in your art. And how would you say, how has it changed the way that you play, the way that you listen to music, the way that you produce, the way that you, because I'll say this, you played that song to me the other night, to me and Michael, that you wrote for your son. I mean, that was, it makes me tender when I think about that. But you went through, to come to that song, I mean, there's some stuff that happened. I don't want to talk about that, but my question to you is, how has it changed your expression as an artist?
Wow, that's great. I think for me, music became an outlet. It became a way of being able to express all those feelings, whatever it was going through, whether it was, divorce or disappointment or betrayal, any of those kind of things. It really helped me, like, process through those feelings and be able to put that into a song or songs. And I think once you tap into something like that, I think you learn how to do it. So, sure, I'm not going to approach someone else's song probably with the same level of emotional investment as I would something that happened to me directly, but I can tap into that. And I try to, I used to say that every time I was working on a song, I was watching a movie. And literally I'm like seeing visuals as I'm trying to put together a song. And it makes a lot of sense. It's music is more than just notes on a staff and a melody. It can be a real expression of something. Like I was talking to Bruce Geich, and oh man, there was a song. I can't think of the name of it. It was Don Henley. It It wasn't The End of Innocence, but it was on that same record, and I can't think of the name of it. He was saying that he was going through a really difficult time in his life in L.A., and this song came on the radio, first time he'd ever heard it. And he said, I literally had to pull off the road and just cry. And it's like that is the level of emotional connection that music has the capability of doing.
Yeah.
When somebody hears something that they relate to, Butterfly Kisses was something that just people related
Yes.
to at the time. You know, there were people that were like, what's a butterfly kiss? You know, and I was kind of like, I don't know. I never did those. And I don't know what that is. But then Bob explained it, you know, and it's kind of like, oh, you know, and I think it was funny at that time. The Spice Girls were number one and bouncing back and forth, and Bob was trading number one slots with Spice Girls, and all kinds of stuff was going on at that time. I think the world just saw a little bit of something real for just a moment, and they wanted it. They related to it, they wanted it, and it meant something to them. And I think that, you know, gosh, he probably wrote the most successful wedding song of the decade.
Yes.
I mean, that thing played at every wedding you ever
Yes.
heard of. We even played at some weddings, you know. But man, it was that emotional connection that music has the ability to do. My old pastor also said that music has a way of bypassing some of the intellect and going straight to the soul. And I think that's true. It can go right to the emotional
Yes.
of a person, and it has kind of a magic ability to it, you know. And I think anytime we can tap into that,
Yeah.
whether that's just me listening to a song and feeling something, and then trying to relay that into the notes I'm playing, or if it's something I'm writing about, something I've gone through, that's the piece of music that has always drawn me to it. Is doing that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow, that was awesome. And well, I'm thankful that you are a artist and a producer that are willing to be vulnerable, because that's really what it is.
Yeah.
There's a real vulnerability in creating in that way.
Yeah, you know, that's changed over the years too, man. I think when I first moved here, everybody was all about, you know, putting off appearances and going to all the parties and looking like the next big thing. And I don't know, over the years that starts fading and fading and fading, and you just start wanting to be more around people that you can just be real with.
Yes.
You know, and that's probably just maturity, I don't know. But that definitely has changed over the years of being here for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was a time I wouldn't have wanted to be vulnerable with anybody.
Yeah.
I didn't trust them.
Yeah.
But yeah, that has changed a bit for me, and I'm
Yeah.
glad.
Yeah, I'm glad. Me too. You know, I realize that more and more that the older we get, you really consider your reasons and your purpose and your time. And thank you. I also want to thank you for the beautiful work you did on my album.
Oh, that was my pleasure.
You did amazing. So, and all the effort and the love.
I'm very proud of that project.
Oh, thank you, Dennis. Me too. So I'm looking forward to everything that's still ahead for you. There's a lot. You're really a gem.
Thank
I
you.
say that. I think you're one of the best. I'm excited to see what else is gonna come forth out of your. How do they say it? That treasure trove, is that the right word?
Yeah.
Yes, there's still a lot of treasures in there that has to come out. So.
I hope so. I love it.
Well, thank you, Dennis.
Thank you, Mirka.
Yeah, wow, this was so cool.